welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Srikanth, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bangalore. And Krishna, good to be back after the long weekend, that too on such a news-heavy day.
Oh, absolutely. News-heavy day. Here's wishing all our viewers a very happy Bhai Dooj. This is Krishna Kumar coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios. First up, a check on all that's making headlines here at ET Now Startup Central. Freshdesk has been moving beyond the pure customer service help desk for some time, and today it got $55 million to continue that expansion. The round was led by Sequoia Capital India with participation from Axel Partners, which has been investing in the company from the beginning. Twitter Inc.'s India head Rishi Jaitley announces that he is leaving the company after 4 years in a series of tweets. Last August, Jaitley was appointed as Vice President of Media for Asia Pacific and Middle East markets. On Investorpedia today, we have Sanjay Nath, the managing partner of Bloom Ventures, which recently closed its second round of funding at $60 million. We asked about themes where Bloom will be investing going forward. We also have a panel discussion that took place at IIT Powai in Mumbai. The aim of this discussion is to get the students familiarized with the pros and cons of the three paths that could shape their career, namely jobs, entrepreneurship, and higher studies. And a special story on online tea platform Tea Box, which has launched individually packaged tea bags in the market. While there are many brands in the space, this startup claims to have used one-of-a-kind technology to retain the freshness of the tea.
Before we get to the exits making news today, Krishna, let's talk about the big funding story of the day. And we are talking about Freshdesk, which is clearly the poster boy as far as SaaS startups in India are concerned. Now, they have raised over $50 million in their Series F round of funding, which is the sixth round of funding. And the new investor in this round includes Sequoia Capital and also one of Freshdesk's early investors, Axel India. Now, with this, the total funding that Freshdesk has raised till date comes to about $150 million. We're still not sure at what valuation this happened. But there was expectation of this round for some months now that, Freshdesk will become a unicorn very soon. We really have to wait and see if that's happened with this round. But clearly, it's a big thumbs up for Freshdesk since it's coming at a time when funding has been coming down for other startups, for other companies. This clearly shows more confidence as far as the Freshdesk model is concerned.
Lots of good news flowing in as far as Freshdesk is concerned. Ever since they won the award at the Economic Times Startup Awards as a Startup of the Year. So here's congratulations to them, and they are inching ever so closer to becoming a unicorn in this country. Let's see if that happens and how soon that happens. But meanwhile, Chandra, on to the other big story that we are featuring here on the show. Twitter Inc.'s India head Rishi Jaitley has announced that he is leaving the company after 4 years in a series of tweets. In fact, just last August, Jaitley was also appointed as the Vice President of Media for Asia Pacific and Middle East and North Africa markets at Twitter. Jaitley did go on to tweet that while a personal/civic calling is taking him to Chicago, he will be spending a significant amount of time in India or Asia, drawing on his past to further technology's promise. Before joining Twitter, Jaitley was a director with American firm Knight Foundation, a foundation that invests in journalism and the liberal arts. And keep in mind, this quitting of Rishi Jaitley comes in the midst of job cuts and poor quarterly performance at Twitter.
And Krishna, they still haven't announced who will be taking Rishi's place. So I guess the India operations for Twitter is still in a bit of a flux, because recently there was buzz that there are going to be layoffs in this market. We really have to wait and see how this shapes up, because Twitter forever has been on the block for the last 6 months. There was buzz of Disney, there was buzz of Salesforce, but apparently those bids are not happening for now. So, Twitter is very active in terms of engagement, but in terms of its business model, monetization, eventual sales, still very many questions there. But moving on to our next story, and we have a venture capitalist on our show today on our section Investopedia. We talked to Sanjay Nath, the managing director, managing partner at Bloom Ventures. Bloom Ventures recently closed its second fund at $60 million. We really asked Sanjay about what kind of themes they will be investing in going forward. Remember, Bloom's portfolio includes the likes of Ola, Grey Orange, Healthify Me, and many more. Let's listen into what Sanjay Nath had to say.
We've already started investing, committed about 40 to 50% of this fund already. Broad sectors again remain the same, B2C and then B2B. I think on the B2C side, we'll have a focus on more of the enablers, right, or facilitators, which is logistics, payments, fintech, which is more than just pure marketplaces, more than B2C marketplaces. We're actually very excited about B2B also. Even in B2B, where Fund 1 and a lot of the funds invested mainly in SaaS, enterprise SaaS, we're doing a lot of deeper tech sectors. So if you look at like Zenetics in IoT, we had Locus in supply chain, routing. We're going to do a lot of, or Tricog right now, which is healthcare, embedded. We're going to look at a lot of sectors which are beyond, let's say, pure SaaS. We'll do SaaS, but we feel that B2B is much beyond that.
Right. I don't know why, but investors always seem to operate in a herd. So last year it was pretty much all hyperlocal and commerce. This year it's been all about fintech, all about SaaS. So are we again staring at a bubble at this point? And what is the next big thing to really interest investors going forward?
I think you used the interesting term of bubble. I'd use a different term. There was over-investment in certain sectors. If you look at food tech, we had Runner, right, which is now part of Tiny Owl. Rather bought Tiny Owl, and it's actually a combined entity together. But if you look at food tech as a space, we stayed away from it entirely, right? In that sense, there was certainly a bubble in food tech. We had 50 companies. I'd say that I think now there is more sanity in the market, where valuations have sort of become more realistic, both at right from the seed to A to B, and of course at late stage levels. Yes, I think the goal of a VC should actually be to be ahead of the wave as opposed to catching the wave at the same time. So I think people, because VCs have actually made a lot of bets, their new investments have been looked at more scrutiny. And I won't say that it's going to become a bubble again at all. In fact, I think if you look at where the investments are going, they're going to very interesting spaces. If you look at our new fund, Bloom 2, we've done 2 in healthcare, and we have not done anything in Fund 1 at all, healthcare tech, right? We've done Tricog and Healthify Me. So I think these are needed sectors. Look at logistics also. Look at edutech, for example. We've done An Academy, Pagal Guy, Flip Class. So I won't call it a bubble. I'd just say that certain sectors saw overinvestment.
Right.
And I think this,
Right. Finally, Sanjay, a lot of talk about how the enabling infrastructure for India-specific problems is, gaining ground with Aadhaar and India Stack and all that. So are we seeing a lot of startups that are, leveraging India Stack, leveraging UPI, Aadhaar, and will you look at investing a lot in this area going forward?
Sure. Right. If you look at the India Aspiration Fund, we're also beneficiaries. They've invested in Bloom. If you look at the UPI and look at, I think there's also an initiative called Invest India, right? Gentleman Karan is involved with that. I think what's really interesting is they're partnering with startups, and we need to do that much more. All our fintech startups, for example, do a session with what is the impact of UPI. Let's just say in logistics, do a session with what is the impact of GST on warehouses, on goods. So I think the answer is yes. If we are going to back more India-specific startups, then we should leverage the infrastructure and the initiatives that are taking place. So I think that's starting to happen. We're seeing more outreaches from corporations, and fintech, for example, trying to work closely with, like you look at Mr. Nandan Nilekani, right, getting involved with startups, getting more involved between, what's the impact of financial inclusion and fintech. I think Karthik was chairing a fintech panel in the morning. So I think we're going to see we're going to see much more collaboration between, let's say, the corporates, the startup sector, and the government.
That was a chat with Bloom Ventures. Away from that and on to a very special panel discussion, Chandra, that took place at IIT Powai in Mumbai. The aim of this particular discussion is to get the students familiarized with the pros and cons of the three paths that could shape their career, namely jobs, entrepreneurship, and higher studies. The panel included the likes of T.R. Ramachandra of Visa Cards, Mayank Kumar, co-founder of UGrad, Manjunath Talwar, co-founder of Hy-Vee and growth driver at Quicker Jobs. Take a look at this.
It depends on your stability from a financial perspective, especially if you're looking at entrepreneurship versus job. If you've got into college with certain commitments from a family perspective, loans, various other things that are bothering you, and can't live a completely independent life, then I think it is worthwhile probably to work for a period, build up certain resources that will make sure financial worries are not there, and you can probably start depending on your own income that you've saved for some time to then begin the entrepreneurial journey. This is one thought process that I'm running with. The other one that I'm thinking is if there is a way for you to get a breakthrough in a entrepreneurship situation where they let you get invested early enough, so you get into an incubator or with some kind of stake that they take, but they let you experiment. They let you take a certain salary. So then the financial worry is also gone.
I think the entrepreneurship versus employment debate, to my mind, is a secondary debate. And the primary debate, in fact, ought to be what are the kinds of spheres of employment or whatever entrepreneurship that you want to do, right? Remember that by the time you guys graduate, 60% of the jobs which were there in 1990 will not be there anymore. They'll be done by chatbots, they'll be done by machine learning, they'll be done by a whole bunch of things, right? Human beings will not do those jobs. So there is no point learning yesterday's employability for tomorrow's employment. What about their employment, whether it's self-employment or employment with somebody else? So that's point number one. So I'd urge you to focus on future-proof, right, education, which focuses on what is the kind of things that you guys and girls can do for the next 20, 30 years. Because definitely, it's not the kinds of things that you were doing 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Issue of, what startup, what is going to be future-proof, what is the technology of 15 years down the road. Because at any point of time, if you have your vision clear, you have to be looking at 10 years down the road when you're trying to do a startup. If not, then don't do it. Because to really the startup to roll off really well, it is going to take 3-4 years. Then after that, you start making more developments and making it more stable and so on. So jumping into a job immediately, I don't have any issues per se about jumping into a job immediately. The jobs give an invaluable amount of experience, and so taking up a job immediately after BTech, learning the real world at someone else's expense is not a bad idea at all. After that, probably I would suggest going into higher education because the startups in the next 5-10 years in India needs to come out of hardcore research in the labs, be it AI research, be it chemical research, be it research in biological sciences, be it research in motors, machines, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, wherever. Because that is where the new technology is going to be.
I do believe that having some kind of an exposure, experience, either at the expense of someone else's money, gives you a good, strong sort of backing and background to end up executing on those elements itself. Because once you jump into entrepreneurship, there are massive amount of unknowns that exist in front of you. You will have no clue as to how to hire. You will have no clue as to biggest thing, how to fire. You will have no clue how to sort of manage with the minimum amount of resources that you will end up having at your sort of disposal. And in that context, some kind of an exposure, because some kind of an experience is important, because ultimately entrepreneurship is very empirical in nature, that you learn from mistakes and you sort of improve upon that. And therein, I believe that having that kind of a background and having some kind of a experience is relevant. And also jumping into entrepreneurship, I would also urge you guys, if you're thinking on that as a serious sort of area for you to look at, is that you need to be really passionate about a particular pain point that you're looking at. You should get up in the morning and you should see that ये ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, and this is a wrong way of doing things. And in that wrong way of doing things, unless you don't have that passion of actually feeling sad when you get up in the morning that, look, I really despise the way it is currently happening and I need to find a really solid solution to that, jumping into entrepreneurship is something I would say would be very premature at that point in time.
On to our next story, we are talking about online tea platform Teabox. Now, Krishna, they have introduced individual tea bags in the market last week. While there are many other competing products in this category, Rahul Dama really went to the Teabox office here in Bangalore to test out this new product, to tell us what really sets it apart from its competitors. And he also caught up with the startup founder, Kaushal Dugar. Let's listen in to this conversation.
Teabox platform for really e-commerce platform for tea lovers has launched tea packs. They forayed into this special segment, but that is not really the exciting part. I believe for the first time they've used natural nitrogen flush to really keep the flavor of the tea intact. The example really, if you're buying chips, a pack of chips, to retain the flavor, they use the technology. And I have with me Kaushal. You're telling us this is the first time that in a beverage company you've used a technology of this sort?
I would say first time in the tea industry this has been used. We don't know of anyone else using natural nitrogen flush and packing tea bags at the source at the same point of time. And this is a concept which our R&D team has worked on for the last 6 months. And fortunately by this we can not just give the freshness of teas, but we can make sure we give it in a convenient form, combining tea bags with nitrogen.
Alright. They have 18 varieties. They've just launched it yesterday. I believe I'm one of the first few lucky customers to sort of get a sense of how this happens. So it'd be interesting to see, are the flavors intact and how does this tea taste? How is it different from the usual ones out there? So let me really try this out. I must tell you one thing that's it really hits you. The flavor is clearly preserved. This is Assam masala chai, and I must tell you, even in the pack, it's the flavors are distinct, very, very, very. You can actually feel the flavor. So as far as this is concerned, I'd like to taste this. I must tell you, I am not really an avid tea lover. I generally prefer filter coffee, but I must tell you the flavors are very much intact. Chandra and Krishna, I would presume both of you are coffee lovers, but I would suggest you try them out because this is something distinct, and I like the flavors that come with it.
On to the final story today, we take you inside an event at Intel recently. They had their Makers event. Rahul went for this to really get you a sense of the interesting startups that showcased here. Listen in to that story.
All right, Chandra, we might have to postpone it to tomorrow's show because we have seriously run out of time here on this edition of ET Now Startup Central, and we will be bringing you that story that Chandra spoke about in tomorrow's edition. But for now, here's saying a goodbye, but don't go anywhere. Keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.